So just like digital transformation, until you can tell me what problem you need to be solved, anything I tell you is just bullshit.
Dude, that is not just because you're adding a PLC, that's not digital transformation, that's automation.
Hey guys, editing Zack here. This podcast with Dylan and I was a impromptu conversation, but we actually got into some pretty deep topics around unified namespace, digital transformation, and what our favorite software platforms are in the industrial automation market, what Dylan's go-to stack is. So you don't want to miss this podcast. Stay tuned.
Well, it's not just PLCs. I mean, a lot of it's just technology in general. I mean, a lot of the people who hear digital transformation on the plant floor level don't even have a PLC installed yet. They don't have any automation. Nothing's digital. You've still got push button controls wired to starters and panels that have been there for 50 years. They hear digital transformation. The first step you need to do is collect data from the field. How do you do that? You have to have controllers, instrumentation devices, or something out there. And then from there, you can either automate the process, which is where a lot of people start. The big thing is on the digital transformation side. I mean, from the beginning, it used to mean just digitizing your ERP. It was just kind of a buzzword that a consultant or an implementation team would tell you to try to sell you on the fact that you needed to move your SQL ERP to the cloud. Nowadays, the Industry 4.0 community has jumped on it, and it means the unified namespace. It means connecting data. IoT has come in and muddied the terms, but traditionally, digital transformation was just digitizing existing processes. It was moving your ERP to the cloud for a lot of people. For others, it was implementing automated workflows. It was all these different things, mostly around, there was internal knowledge bases. How do you get employee knowledge into a digital format? How do you digitize? Was digital transformation. Digitize what's currently manual. A lot of people started there.
Then, let's just answer this question. What is digital transformation?
It's whatever you want it to mean to get the sale. Digital transformation is a buzzword, and it means a different thing to different people. And if you're hearing somebody sell you digital transformation, you need to know what their motives are. What are they selling you? Why are they using the term? Why do you need to be digital? Why do they want you to be digital? What are they selling? If they're selling digital transformation, that is a sales tactic to get you to buy something. Nobody's selling digital transformation. It's not a product. So if somebody's selling you digital transformation, what are they selling? Are they selling ERP integration? Are they selling an MES? Are they selling a unified namespace? Are they selling an implementation of some other software or services? What are they selling? Are they a consultant? Are they just selling their hours? If you don't start with what is the problem, and they can't tell you what problem you have that they're going to solve for you, then they're coming at it from the wrong angle, and they're just trying to get you to buy their thing. At which point their thing might be valuable, but you need to know what are they selling you. Otherwise, you're just going to be a sucker, taking whatever they give you and hoping it solves a problem that they weren't even aware of. And are they selling you an ERP? Are they pretending it's an MES? Are they selling you a PLC and automation and saying it's digital transformation? Are they selling you a SCADA system, a network upgrade? Are they selling, where do you want to start here? You could even go on the whole connect, collect, store piece. You could. It's just, what are they selling and what do you need? So if you don't know what your problems are, then how can you buy a solution? And the question there is, are you buying a solution or are you buying a product? A product could solve your problem. It can be the solution, but if you don't have a problem, it's just a tool that you don't need that you might be buying. Why would you buy it until you need it?
But isn't digital transformation not the process of going from where your automation stack is fully separated and manual and or paper processes between the stack, going to a fully integrated digital ecosystem?
To a point. It's one definition. Then you have to ask, what do you mean by automation stack?
From an Industry 3.0 company to an Industry 4 company?
Yeah, but that's not a product. That's a process. That is an act of change. It is change management. It's culture change. It's strategical differences from where you are now. It's change. And a product will not sell you change. So if you're trying to buy a change process from an ERP vendor or from a systems integrator putting in a unified namespace. You're not buying change, you're buying a tool that's being implemented by somebody.
What is unified namespace?
It is a approach for collecting and aggregating and sometimes normalizing the data for current state. It can be the glue if you're talking about it. I mean, it depends on who you ask too. I mean, for me, it's definitely just an approach for how you're getting data. I can piss off everybody by just saying it is an event-driven architecture pattern. The event-driven architecture people don't like that because it's not one of the approved patterns, and the UNS people don't like it because they feel like it oversimplifies it. But it's a pattern for implementation. It is a tool that is used to integrate layers of the stack. Sometimes they were layers that didn't traditionally talk to each other. Sometimes they were. Sometimes the UNS is just sitting in between as a communications layer between your SCADA and your MES. Sometimes it's a IoT platform that connects all of your devices in the field and connects them to your ERP or your MES, or gives you a dashboard or an alarm platform. I mean, it depends on who you ask. UNS is just a tool. And the reason I think it's a buzzword is because different people have so many different definitions. So just like digital transformation, until you can tell me what problem you need to be solved, anything I tell you is just bullshit.
I love the analogy we said where it's like year one sales. We want a unified namespace. It's like, well, what problem are you trying to solve? Then it's like year three in sales. It's like, we want a unified namespace. It's like, yes, absolutely.
Yep. I mean, if you come to me and say you want a unified namespace, I'll ask you, what do you want? Because you don't want a unified namespace. You want something to, if you come to me and tell me you need a unified namespace, you don't want a unified namespace. You want a solution to some problem, or you want to buy a thing because of some hype that was around it.
But isn't the unified namespace like the solution to almost every problem that you would use to solve in any, like 99% of problems, you would use some form of unified namespace to solve that problem?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, it is, if you go to the traditional definition, it's the single source of truth for current state data.
Exactly, right. Isn't that what we need for 99% of things that we do?
I would not say that 99% of problems can be solved with the current state of your business alone. You need additional context, you need additional history.
Right, but what problems can you solve without that current state?
Without the current state, you can solve almost all the same problems. I mean, if you've got a brownfield site that already has a 3.0 stack that goes into a traditional industrial historian, and you have the budgets and you've already integrated that historian has the current state by getting the most recent value. It might not be event driven. So then the question is, do you need event driven or not? Do you need a report by exception or not? But you already have the data you need to solve these problems in your historian.
Right, but you would spend way more time getting the data from all these disparate data sources together to solve the problem, where the first step you do to solve that would, like, let's just say you want to normalize yourself to train a machine learning model, you would get everything into a unified namespace first.
If you're giving me a Greenfield site and I need to connect a bunch of controllers and assets and collect data from those and send data to them, I would probably start with a pattern and an approach that would look like a unified namespace at the end of the day. If you are giving me a brownfield site and we already have 10 historians, I'm probably not going to say it's worth a $500,000 project to put in all the tools and the budgets and connect all the sites and reroute all the data that already exists in the historians through a different direction just for the sake of having UNS. I mean, I could provide the value with just flow software connected to a historian and a couple SQL databases, calculate the KPIs, and I could publish it from there. And maybe the next step is that looks like a UNS from the enterprise level. If we already have an OPC server, do I need to rip all of that out and put in an MQTT broker? What if I need store and forward and publish capabilities to buffer from the edge to the cloud, and we have already an infrastructure that's written on RabbitMQ? Do I rip out the AMQP broker and put an MQTT broker in there? The answer is going to be no. And then depending on who you ask, that may or may not be a UNS. Is the AMQP broker architecture a UNS or not? Some people say it has to be on MQTT. A lot of people don't. I don't call anything a UNS these days. I have solutions.
What was the biggest value of the UNS?
education. It educated the market on the need for integrating and connecting these things and for sharing data between applications that didn't traditionally share them. I think the UNS as a thing to be sold and implemented has turned into a buzzword. The value of the UNS after over the last almost 10 years now has been educating the market on the need to integrate these layers and collect the data in the first place. Between Walker coming out in, 2018, talking about the UNS and popularizing everything, and COVID happening and pushing everybody to work from home, that 1-2 punch really proved to the industry. COVID came and said, I need to get data out of this factory so I can work with it at home. And coincidentally, a few years prior to that, Walker had said, hey, here's a UNS and here's this whole concept. And those two things unlocked the door in parallel to each other. One led to the other. And if they both hadn't happened, we wouldn't be where we are. But I think the value of the UNS is an educational hurdle. Once how many people do you know who went through, you've been there since day one. How many people went through the educational process of the UNS? Holy shit, the UNS is great. Let's integrate everything. Let's put in this thing. All right, now we have a bunch of random shit that we can't even read in a broker sitting in some protobuf format in Sparkplug that I can't understand or read. And now I don't know how to make use of it. All right, now let's tear it all down. Let's start over. Let's put in a flat MQTT structure. Let's put in some governance and try to make the topics work.
So you would not use Sparkplug B.
Nah, maybe not. But you get further with this, right? You get to the point now you've got everything connected through a single MQTT broker to all of your local on-site applications. And you probably have this really, really awesome stack using software that we all love that can do very powerful things, but it was all installed locally to solve the problems of a single site. And then you start to say, now what? Because this site 2, site 3, site 4 all did the same thing. And then now the enterprise scope comes up, and now you're looking at this from, you started with L2 and L3. Basically, the UNS was just integrating L2 to L3 at the end of the day. And then it grew into, let's integrate L3 to some other calls to L4, but that was all API and gateway.
I would say L4 was part of it. L4 was part of it.
Yeah, but L4 wasn't the event-driven report by exception point. You needed a gateway either way.
No, it was, well, it was sort of. So like, if I, for example, was on a machine and I'm like, hey, I'm working on this work order, by virtue of entering in that work order or, scanning whatever thing I need to work on, it would request from the ERP those, that information, and then it would land it into the unified namespace. So it was sort of like data or like it would be queried. So like whatever the order number is, it would query the SQL table. That's actually how it would query that, where order ID or, equals.
Mm-hmm. And I think from the original intent of a UNS, you know it better than anybody, even me, is I think that's very true. To how people currently look at the UNS in mass right now, they don't see the different steps. You're going from a PLC or a controller in the field through an OPC server, from that OPC server to an MQTT broker, from that MQTT broker to some other data ops tool or API layer that would then query the API that would go to the ERP, and then it would come back and everything would land in the middle. But depending on how you're defining the UNS, how far do you go? How low do you go? You've still got L0 connected to L1, connected to L2, connected to L3, connected to L4 in that scenario. Your PLC still talks in L1, talks to a OPC in L2, talks to your MQTT broker in L3 that goes through a data ops tool or an iPaaS platform to L4. You've still got your traditional stack.
Let me ask you this. I want to ask you what your ideal stack is, which I know is a pointless exercise, but I still want to ask you. But no, speaking of unified namespace, what company or companies, maybe do the top 3, benefited the most from unified namespace? But besides the end user, obviously they benefited the most. But
I'm going to punt that one because I don't want to get anybody, and myself included, in trouble.
Obviously, I say top 3 because you couldn't have that list without 4.0 Solutions being one of the top companies that benefited from it, just by virtue of being the source, like the YouTube channel. I mean, that stuff would have grown even if we had not named it the Unified Namespace. Like the content was valuable, but being, the founder of the Unified Namespace and then having that blow up, like that obviously was incredible for Walker's brand and 4.0 solutions.
That was the credibility boost. I mean, obviously there were projects that led up to it that got technical credibility. And from an engineer perspective, people could respect him based on past results and past projects. But from an enterprise perspective, from a corporate or an MBA perspective, being the guy who founded the UNS, that's what gets you speaking engagements. That's what gets you a mastermind. And that's what gets you in the door at the big enterprise companies.
It's not even, think about it, it's not even like you have a methodology. It's like you created an architecture. It's quite insane. Like it's honestly so impressive. So all right, but then number 2 has got to be 2 and 3 has got to be like HiveBind or HiveMQ.
I probably wouldn't disagree.
Being politically correct. All right, so then because like Fuse, they just recently came on the map, so it's definitely not Fuse, although they are sort of that layer between L2 and they are that layer 3 between L4 and L2. But if you want to talk about just unified namespaces, I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
If you don't come into the engagement,
Maybe SiriusLink.
let's just say it this way. If I don't need to come into the engagement saying we need a UNS, how many architectures would not include MQTT outside of the fact that we need a UNS?
So you're saying MQTT benefited from UNS more than UNS benefited from MQTT, huh?
I think it might have popped anyway with the ignition stuff and the SiriusLink, and it might have grown around anyway.
SiriusLink would be a good runner-up then.
And I think it would have made it without the UNS.
IA, SiriusLink.
I think the conversation around UNS shined a light on MQTT that wasn't previously there. I mean, it was made...
Maybe Amazon Web Services.
Yeah. I mean, it was made for the industrial space, but nobody in the industrial space adopted it outside of oil and gas for how many years? Decades? Before finally it became popular.
Speaking of Amazon Web Services, so what's your ideal stack?
It's going to depend on where you're at, but if you're starting from the ground up, it's probably going to be some combination of Ignition, HiveBind, Flow Software, or Solace broker as a starting point for platforms that you can build things off of, whether you need screens and connectivity on the PLC side of things, or you just need data ops, do you need analytics? Some combination of those 4 tools will get you everything you need.
On a single site though, what do you think about CoreFlux? I know you're doing the deep dive on CoreFlux. What are your initial impressions?
And it's a very powerful broker. I mean, it'll do what you need. It's cheaper than a lot of the other options out there and just as performant in most environments. They've got their cloud-hosted one as well. I mean, MQTT brokers are kind of a commodity at this point, so it comes down to what other features do they offer. Anybody can pump messages through a broker at this point. So, I mean, HiveMQ has Pulse coming out. Solace is a broker that includes MQTT, but is also built on AMQP and has a bunch of other stuff. HiveBind has a broker built in, so do you need another broker on site? Maybe, maybe not. But they've got other data ops stuff, and MQTT is just a feature. Ignition, you can do the SiriusLink module. I would probably not use the module for performance reasons in Ignition, more so than SiriusLink as a broker. But SiriusLink handles Sparkplug really well. CoreFlux has really good edge connectivity and routing. They've got all their new lot notebook stuff that's really coming out as powerful. You go into EMQX and their Neuron platform for connectivity that sets them apart. EMQX, CoreFlux, and HiveMQ have really good security options for ACLs and things of that nature. But as far as an MQTT broker goes, there's not much to separate one versus the other outside of the features they're adding on the side of the broker.
If there's 2 platforms that are basically the same, or they have overlap, they're not the same, and the overlapping features are covering my application, how do you decide which one to pick?
You find the vendor that has the solution that will meet your need, and when there's more than one, and then it comes down to obviously cost as a factor, but then assuming they're the same price or within the ballpark where it's worth it, you've got culture, attitude, willingness to change, Will they work with you? Will they tell you too bad when you ask for features? When there's a bug, what's their responsiveness? Do they know your industry? Do they know you? Do they care to know you? Or are they too big? Are they too small to handle your scale and your needs and ticket support? Or are they too big to care? And there's an answer somewhere in that spectrum for each individual to find.
Got it. What they're looking for.
A lot of it comes down to people. Who are the people you want to work with at that point? Who is going to be the right people to work for you? It's all about right partner. And it all goes from there.
Whoever has the nicer salesperson.
That's the dangerous path.
Whoever has the better salesperson.
That's what it comes down to more often than not. I mean, whether or not the product even meets your needs, it's if the right salesman's there, they'll convince you it does.
Yeah, yeah. Like literally, if they're the two products are the same, but one has a salesperson. Now, granted, this may be counterproductive in some scenarios if they're annoying about it, but like if they're just continuingly, meeting you where you're at, like being helpful, providing resources, and I hate to use the word, but like checking in or following up, you'd probably go with them, because they're more top of mind. So
I mean, personally speaking, and there's arguments against this too, but I personally tend to lean towards people that are slightly on the smaller end of the spectrum and looking to grow with you or looking to meet your needs so they can grow with you, even if you're bigger than them.
So CoreFlux would be a good option for that.
There are, if you're at a certain scale or need a certain level of discipline or regulation, then you might want to do the bigger player who might not want to be as flexible, but that might be why you want them if you're a very rigid organization or a regulated industry. But generally,
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say, generally speaking, I'm going to try to find the partner that wants to work with us, not just because they want the income, but because they want to grow, they want to solve our problems, and there's mutual benefit on both sides of the arrangement.
We should do yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of that, you gave me an idea. We should do gated content, like a members only section of this video. Are you down?
Sure.
Oh, but we can't do that yet because we're not at our YouTube channel is not at the level yet where
We're close. We're not far.
there's a question I want to ask you. Maybe we'll just have it unlisted. It'd be like, hey, DM us if you want this.
Ask the question, and I'm going to note that you asked this question, and please run it by me before you publish it.
All right, we're going unscripted. So what's the one platform that every manufacturer should have?
Ignition's just the base go-to at this point. I mean, it's a Swiss Army knife.
That was a bait question. All right. If they already have Ignition, what's the one platform?
Well, if they already have Ignition, then you add HiByte, you add Flow software. You might need Litmus Edge or Kepware or some other more advanced device connectivity layer to connect to more advanced types of controllers. Ignition's really good for PLC-centric architectures, but people with CNCs and robots and specialty equipment and machines don't always have the drivers that conform to the native device drivers of the big PLC manufacturers. So then you're going to need some other layer of connectivity. So you might have to start there before you get to Ignition. But there are times where you wouldn't start with Ignition. I mean, not knowing who you are, Ignition's the easy answer. But sometimes you just need to connect to your devices and push the data out somewhere else. Maybe you start with HiByte. Maybe you start with Fuse or something like that. But yeah.
Not Kepware? In 2025, are you going Kepware? Yes or no?
I have very few instances in my entire career where I have started with a Kepware installation on a site where I had a choice.
I've also never heard of anyone getting fired over going Kepware.
We'll see.
You're like, not yet. You think they can turn it around?
We'll see.
All right, yeah.
It depends.
All right, yeah.
I'm saying stuff in this recording that's going to get me shot, so we got to be careful about what we publish.
I'll edit it. I'll edit it. But I will say on the video, if we publish this, will you set aside 2 30-minute blocks of time to do discovery calls with potential new clients next week? Like be able to just jump on a 30-minute call, do a review of their architecture, and see if they're a good fit?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump on a discovery call for just about anybody out there to see if they're a good fit for our services, but also just to reflect with them on their architecture, where they want to go. When they say UNS, what does that mean and what problems are they actually trying to solve? If we're not the right fit, we've got plenty of partners and friends in the industry, whether they're vendors or integrators, who we can put in front of them. And best case scenario, we're the right fit, and let's go.
Awesome. All right, I'll put the link to that down below. Let's do this again next week. Let's do this again next week. No, seriously. Yeah, this is
okay.
fun.
Yeah. But if people want to put if people want to put in the questions on a live stream, I'm happy to talk about their architectures. If they want to share screenshots or ask the questions, but we can talk about anything else too.
Cool. Let's do it next week.
Awesome.